So I think that a lot of FPS gamers are really dissatisfied with the state of the genre, or at the very least, they're dissatisfied with maybe their favorite game series, they wanted to change directions, or something like that. And especially if you're feeling dissatisfied with FPS games, I want to offer a solution. But before I do that, I want to talk about the FPS genre because I think it's really important. And I played a lot of these games over the years. And I think that probably when people talk about frustration with FPS games, they're probably referring to Call of Duty or Battlefield, or to some extent, maybe Counter-Strike. I think those are probably the three biggest ones, maybe Rainbow Six Siege as well. And I think the thing is that a lot of times these games, they're kind of going in this direction, and there's almost like this acceptance, I think, that's necessary that some of these game series are not going to go back to what they were. And this is coming from someone that played the original Call of Duty, the first Call of Duty. I played the original Battlefield 1942. I played Counter-Strike, the original Counter-Strike. And so I played a lot of the games in these series, whether it's Modern Warfare or Black Ops or Battlefield 3, Battlefield 2, Counter-Strike Source. I mean, I played a lot of these games, but especially with the FPS genre, it's kind of one of those things where I feel like there's so many gaming dynamics that really affect the FPS genre that I don't really think they're going anywhere. And so if you want to enjoy FPS games, you kind of have to move to different games. And I love the Battlefield games. Okay, I like the old school Call of Duty games. You know, I'm a big Counter-Strike fan. But at the same time too, some of the things that people hate, I just don't think they're going away. So for example, microtransactions, all these microtransactions with weapon skins or operator skins or all those things, there's too much money in it. There's been this normalization of that mechanic for that to go away. It's unfortunate because I do think that in a lot of ways it contaminates things, it messes with the realism of these games, and I hate it. And like I said, I've played all these old school games, I had so much fun with them, but I think that that idea is just here to stay, unfortunately. And then on top of that, I think that there's been a lot of gaming culture that has changed over the years. There's been a lot more focus on being competitive, where you're trying to compete with these games or grind ranks or be a top streamer. And some of that is because of dynamics that have changed within the gaming industry, because of popular video game releases, because of streamers. And there's obviously been a lot of pushback onto things like skill-based matchmaking. And once again, these ideas are kind of just very ingrained within the FPS genre at this point. And of course, the FPS genre is so popular that they're trying to make these games very mass appealable. And so a lot of the immersion of the world, maybe this more grittiness, is kind of sacrificed for collaborations with the real world, or to maybe make it more popular and to try to sell microtransactions by kind of making it closer to Fortnite, which has obviously made a ton of money, or something like that. And so on top of that, you also have this kind of changing gamer mentality, games just being very fast paced. And so many different games, I think, have frustrated people. So, you look at the state of Call of Duty, and people have been unhappy with Call of Duty for a long time, whether it's Warzone, whether it's cheating, the changes with the most recent Black Ops game. And then same with Battlefield, where there's a lot of people that don't like the direction of the more recent Battlefield games, or Battlefield 6, or just kind of some of the changes in Counter-Strike, or any of these games. And so I think that a lot of people, they just want a game to grind. They want that FPS game to love. They want to just really be immersed into it. But a lot of these games that kind of exist in this space, they're just no longer what they used to be because of all the things that I've said. And I think that's probably true with a lot of streamers too. I think a lot of streamers would love to have a game rather than having to just grind Call of Duty or something like that. I do think that's the case. But I think the reality is this. I mean, there's kind of 3 points, I think, to all this. So the first thing is this. I mean, with video games, to some extent, there is this level of acceptance that I think you have to have, at least with the current state of the video game genre right now. I just don't think that FPS games are going to change. And if they are going to change, you're going to just have to wait for that next game. But that being said, though, there are alternative games that you can play. It's not the same kind of style, which I understand, but I think you can get so much fun and enjoyment out of these games if you kind of give them a try and you change your expectations and your ideas on these games. Just because I think ultimately, if you only want to play that Call of Duty style game, there's only so many games on the market that are like that. And so there is this acceptance of, okay, this is what it is now, and I'm just not going to play this, and I'm going to play other types of FPS games, or I'm just going to not play video games in general, or play other genres. And I get it. It does suck. I think that that's true for me for a lot of different game series. There's a lot of video games that don't feel the same anymore. I think that a lot of MMORPGs, as an example, don't feel like they used to. And so I don't really play MMOs really anymore. So, there is this level of acceptance with it. But once you kind of move past that, I think what you kind of find is that if you kind of go into these more niche games, if you kind of go into these kind of more smaller games, there seems to be this level of passion and feeling in these games that are so much fun. And in a lot of ways, it reminds me of kind of old school FPS gaming in so many ways. It's like moving past Call of Duty and Battlefield and playing something that's a little bit more tactical, like Ready or Not, or Squad, or Arma Reforger, or Arma 3. And I get it, these are kind of different style of games. In a lot of ways, they're more tactical. They're not as fast paced. They are a different experience. And they're obviously less popular because they are more complicated and all those things. But because of that, I feel like it kind of makes some of these games a lot more fun. In some respects, because they're not as popular as, say, Call of Duty or Battlefield, it actually kind of makes the experience more fun. Because I think at some point when you make things super mass appealable, it gets contaminated by some of these ideas. It's not to say that the only fun games are really niche games or anything like that, but I think that if you really want that kind of joy and awesomeness out of FPS games, you have to kind of go into that more niche territory. And there's a lot of fun games, but at the same time too, I get it. There's nothing quite like that kind of in between the arcade and the realistic simulator like Battlefield or Call of Duty or something like that. But if you're just looking for just that solution to enjoying FPS games to some extent, I think that it's worth giving a try some of these other games that are a little bit more complicated, like a Ready or Not, like a Squad, like an Arma 3. And there's actually so many fun games. I mean, all the games that I listed, I would definitely check out. I would definitely check them out because they can be so much fun, and they can be kind of very overwhelming and intimidating at first, but they're so much fun. Once you kind of get used to it, you just have so much fun. And like I said, it reminds me of kind of old school gaming in so many respects. I mean, the amount of people that are playing a game like Squad compared to like Battlefield is just so drastic, but there's something awesome about playing these games. And, you know, it's not even just kind of these style of games either. There's so many games that are kind of adjacently related to this that you can have so much fun. And it's just about exploring new types of games, or even game genres that are beyond FPS games that can really open you up to so many amazing video games. You know, two games that are really awesome, and I guess they're not first-person shooters in the strictest of sense, are like Warhammer 40,000 Darktide or Vermintide 2. Those are awesome games. Or even like they're not necessarily a classical FPS game like Chivalry 2. Chivalry 2 is so much fun. It's, I guess, not an FPS game because it's like with swords and stuff like that, but I mean, that game is so much fun. And when I play these games, all these games that I've mentioned, you just kind of feel like there is just this old school gaming aspect with these things. And I think in these spaces, there are some cool games coming out, like a Hell Let Loose Vietnam. I mean, that looks kind of compelling. We'll see if it's any good. But I think that that is the key with some of these FPS games, is just to kind of go into that territory where you're going into these games that are a lot less popular. They're a little bit more complicated. It's not going to be that perfect alternative to Call of Duty because it is what it is, but you can have so much more fun. I think in some ways it's about accepting the state of some of these games and finding alternatives to play. That is sad in a way. I would love there to be awesome Call of Duty or Battlefield games, but to some extent, especially with the state of gaming nowadays, you have to kind of accept that certain games and game series are not coming back. Certain genres are in a tough spot, whether it's RPGs or FPS games or whatever it is, and some of these dynamics are not going to change, no matter how much people want them to change. And to some extent, it's about analyzing that and accepting it. If you don't want to play any of those games, maybe it's just being honest with yourself that you just don't want to play these video games anymore, or you want to just play different video games. But I would say that rather than just being super negative about all these games, definitely give these other games a try in the FPS space or other genres too. You might be pleasantly surprised, because while the video game industry does have a lot of problems, and there's a lot of problems, especially with certain video game series and franchises, there's a lot of awesome video games kind of in that more niche territory, in that more complicated territory. I think that those are where some of the best video games are. And while you might be used to a certain type of video game, you might be pleasantly surprised how many hours and how much fun you can get out of some of these games and different genres and franchises. So I would really encourage you to check it out, because really, when we look at FPS, it's just, that is the state of the industry right now. I think that it's probably not going to change. There could be some changes along the horizon, but you kind of want to get some awesome, fun experiences. You're willing to take a risk and try something new. Check out these other games and see what happens. You might be pleasantly surprised. Let me know what you think. And hey, if you like this video, consider liking and subscribing. I make a lot of awesome video game content on my channel. Check it out, and I will see you in the next video.